Welcome to the Mountain Man Chronicles. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Live, learn, and explore. Hey, this is Paul coming at you with my next video. Wanted to share with you, this is going to be bonus content. Unfortunately, this was taken at a time before I had a camera, or a video camera, I should say. And we wanted to go out on an adventure. The background is it was 2021, was the beginning of the pandemic, and I really just needed to get out. We had just recently got the Gladiator, had it for about 6 months. We also had a Black Series trailer, which was more of a pop-up style that we quickly realized that we outgrew it. The adventure was basically to go look at different ghost towns in Nevada. I didn't know at the time there was so many ghost towns, so much rich history, and so much information about Nevada and the ghost towns. So if you'd like to get my routes, and you're a subscriber, so if you'd like to get my routes for this trip, my all the information I have on the different towns, places to stay, happy to share it. What I'd like you to do is like, subscribe, and send me an ask, and I'll gladly share with you the Excel file that has all the links, how much time it takes between the different spots. Now, one of the things that Raylene and I had to do is we started out to see Vernon, Tunneltown, Mazuma, Seven Troughs, Farrell, Placerites, Rabbit Hole, which is actually part of the Pony Express, Sosa, and Willow Springs. Weather had a different purpose for us at the trip, so we ended up doing a bypass, which isn't on the list, and we ended up in Bodie, California, which was just outstanding. But there is some great places to see, a lot of rich history, a lot of ghost towns, mines. It was a wonderful trip and one that really brought us together and one that we enjoyed. And it's one of those trips that had lasting memories and we still talk about very often. Great trip. I hope you enjoy it.
As I mentioned, the beginning of the trip was pretty ambitious. We were trying to get to all these various waypoints on this map. Pretty aggressive, but I thought it was doable. As mentioned, on this trip, I had my Jeep, which you see here, my 2020 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, and my Black Series Patreon trailer. Both very capable, both outstanding for this trip. Little I know, the adventure would take us far beyond this, into the snow and some crazy weather. All fun, but we were prepared. We were off. It was time to start the adventure. The first stop was Halfway House, and aside from a few corrals, maybe a couple little fences, there wasn't really much left. Some depressions in the ground, scattered debris. And you can see here in the picture there's really not a lot left. Vernon was after that, and it was in worse shape. The purpose of these towns were to really kind of stop and supply and make sure everything was set. It's a 30-mile trip from Lovelock to Tunneltown. So really, one Halfway House, hence the name, stop halfway. The second one is Vernon, and that's really where they watered the horses and got all ready. What we did know is really the gem of this whole trip was right in front of us. As you start to enter Tunneltown, you see from the distance the town itself, which is quite remarkable. But we had to find camp. It was getting dark. So we decided to camp right outside of town, right next to this mine. Quite unique. Very open mine. Had something pinging all night long. Right next to the mine, there's a cemetery that dates back to the 1880s with several graves in it. It was interesting, kind of spooky, added to the whole ghost town element. Here's a closer look at the mine. Did start to venture near, but we pulled them away. As we got closer to and started to explore before we set up camp, we went into the graveyard. The graveyard was really unique. There's about 5 to 7 graves, including the grave of a little one, which you'll see there in the bottom right-hand corner. It was near Easter for us. So this grave was marked. Apparently somebody does go there and visit because they were children that passed away. Very unique. Very humbling. We set up camp, got the trailer and the Jeep ready. Started to get ready for the night. As the night approached, it started to go down quietly. We set up a fire, and we were ready for the night. Little we know, we found out it got mighty cold in the desert that night in the middle of April. It dropped down into the mid-10s. Really, Raylene was a trooper through it. As the night started to go down over the town, we knew next day's adventure into Tunneltown was going to be quite the thrill to go see. Tunneltown was very unique as we went through it. In a moment here, I'll show you some pictures of the different places to go see and stay within Tunneltown. Great place, all BLM land. You can camp anywhere you want to around here. So great place to go explore. Worth it. If you want an epic trip, that's not a tourist trip. This is one that really will make a difference for you. I highly recommend going to see Tunneltown. Tunneltown is one of those towns that time forgot. Unlike Bodie, which is a state park, this is truly a ghost town where the buildings are there. You're greeted by a stamp mill when you first walk up to the town. You can imagine how loud this machinery was. As you explore through the old buildings, you can walk up to them, but you can't go into them. But you can touch them and imagine what it would be like to live out in the middle of this desert with nowhere to go. The story behind Tunneltown, it was built to take the ore from seven troughs through a tunnel, which they were going to dig through the mountain, and then run it and mill it. And they have the old the plant there where they would put chemicals and separate the ore from everything else. Unfortunately, the tunnel didn't make it. The town didn't survive. But the remains are still here. Quite an amazing town. A lot of history about it. And something that's just really cool to look at. Very interesting to walk through. I found myself stepping back in time, wondering what it would be like to live here, out in the middle of the desert, all alone, with nobody to talk to, nobody to see, knowing that you're 30 miles from Lovelock, which is about, in the middle of nowhere. So you're many distances from anybody with just the people here to talk to. We overstayed our time in Tunneltown, so we decided to venture on, head over to Mazuma and then the Seven Troughs. The trail of Seven Troughs to Mazuma turned out to be really rough. Too rough for one person to take alone, so we opted not to do it. We got at one point where we had to back out. My wife was a trooper, and if you've ever been married and had one spouse try to teach another how to back up something, you understand what that's like. Then what we decided to do was go park and set up camp right outside of Farrell. And Farrell was an interesting town. Not a lot there. There is a remnants in the foundry, the base of a stamp mill, but not much more. You can see the story of the town is it was built right in the narrow of a canyon, and you can see where that narrow of the canyon washed out and took the town with it. And if you look down there, you can see some foundations and stuff in that you'll see in this picture. But we ended up setting up camp here and having a very cold night down to zero, which ended up making us change our plans. We headed to Bodie. Well, you'll see here's pictures of Bodie. We ended up heading back out to the highway of Lovelock and driving to Bodie and staying at a hotel our last night. But it was an epic drive. It was a lot of fun. We had to go up over Model Lake and came down that way, and we ended up encountering snow and ice on the road. But here's some pictures of Bodie. Bodie is a state park in California. If you haven't been there, I recommend going there. You can actually walk up to the windows and seeing all the different areas that the people lived. If I had to compare that to Tunneltown, I preferred Tunneltown. It wasn't as touristy. It is truly a ghost town, and you can feel the ghosts in Tunneltown. Whereas Bodie was more of a sightseeing, get a good town. Don't get me wrong. It's a great state park, but not one that I put high on my list. If I ever remember the epic town, I'll remember the time I spent with my wife in Tunneltown, camping next to a cemetery that had people from the 1880s, feeling their presence around you, hearing the tone of the mine shaft with the metal above it, and having cannoli run around. It was an epic night with lots of stars, an epic trip, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
Welcome to the Mountain Man Chronicles. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Live, learn, and explore.